Good afternoon, and our apologies for a late start today. Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS's YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. And now for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. The pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do I have an agenda? Thank you. Oh. And now for item 2.03 on the agenda, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes is printed.
I second.
Is there any discussion of the minutes? Do I have consensus to approve the minutes? Item 2.04, establish agenda order.
Motion to approve agenda as written.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the agenda? Do I have consensus to adopt the agenda as written?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Item 2.05, recognitions. And I'm going to first turn this over to Dr. Arlotto.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, those that are joining us here in person and those that are viewing. I am incredibly excited and incredibly honored that we are going to take the time today to recognize Ms. Jody Reese, our Director of Food and Nutrition Services. Obviously, it says a great deal, Jody, when you get a standing ovation and nobody knows what it's for. I just mentioned your name.
That's right.
Well, now let me tell you what it's for. 24 hours ago, ladies and gentlemen, we had no recognitions for today's board meeting for you. But in the last 24 hours, we were notified that Miss Jody Reese, our awesome Director of Food and Nutrition Services, has been recognized as the Maryland School Nutrition Association Director of the Year.
Woo! Yes.
We were lucky enough to gather as a surprise at her office yesterday with a number of her staff, Mr. Sheknovich and myself, and some cake just to celebrate. Members of the association came to speak about Jody and her incredible work. And it truly is, you're a gifted leader, and it is well recognized in this community, in this school system, and around the state about how much you care about children. That is your drive each and every day to ensure that our children are fed. You epitomize not only quality leadership, but everything that is good about Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We all in each of our departments aspire to be more like you in your continued and unrelenting focus on children. As all of you know, her good work has been over the past 27 years, I think now, with Anne Arundel County Public Schools, when she planned to stay just 5. And she has made it her home, and we have been the benefactors of that. I just cannot speak enough about your leadership, your dedication. Your team loves working for you each and every day. We love what you do for our children. This is well recognized, well deserved, even before COVID. And when COVID hit, within hours, you had your teams standing at the ready, curbside. And as you like to tell the story, when I had conversations with you leading into that weekend that we were now closing schools and how we were going to serve meals, you said, "Oh, don't worry, Dr. A, I got this." And in fact, you did for each and one of our children. And you and your team have served millions and millions and millions of meals to our children uninterrupted during this pandemic. And so I thank you for everything that you do. And I thank you for the brief time, Madam Chair.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Arlotto. In her 14 years overseeing AACPS's Division of Food and Nutrition Services, Ms. Rissy has become known as an innovator who cultivates creative year-round approaches to providing healthy meals for students at all levels with an intense focus on fresh fruits and vegetable options. Under Ms. Rissy's leadership, the Division of Food and Nutrition Services has provided more than 12.5 million meals to students across the county since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in March of 2020. Food and Nutrition Services employees didn't miss a day serving meals on the very first day schools were closed. In addition to her work with the AACPS, Ms. Rissy has served on the Maryland School Nutrition Executive Board since 2002 and was the organization's Education Committee co-chair from 2000 to 2007. On a personal note, Miss Rissy, the first time I recall interacting with you was when I came in to attend, and forgive me if I get the name wrong, the Wellness Committee or Council, sorry. It was such a fun afternoon, but there's certain people that when you walk into a room, you simply feel their presence as soon as you're there. There's this positive energy and light about them, and you are certainly one of those people that just makes that impression on me. And secondly, it was a scary time for all of us. I recall, we're all humans, we're parents, we're wives, we're husbands, and so when all this talk was going on and we're glued to the TV and the phone trying to figure out what the heck is going on right now in the world, and our schools are suddenly closed. I mean, our minds were blown what you were able to pull off in an instant, getting our students fed in the middle of all of that. So heartfelt thank you. And therefore, the Board of Education would like to present you with this citation. And it reads, "The Board of Education of Anne Arundel County bestows this citation upon Jody Rissy in recognition of your invaluable leadership as Supervisor of Food and Nutrition Services and for making a difference in the lives of the students and the families of Anne Arundel County. We are grateful for your unwavering dedication and support of Anne Arundel County Public Schools." Mr. Rissy, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Silkworth and Miss Dent switch for me, please. See, I told you about that movie.
Do you want me on the end, Mike? Do you want me on the end?
I think you're okay. I can't see. Okay, great. All right, guys, that looks good. We're gonna go ahead and take a few of these. A couple more. Congratulations.
Thank you. This is so home for me. Thank you for the support, and I truly have the best team in the whole wide world. So I couldn't do any of it without them. And like I said, I think the other day, I thought it'd be 5 years. I'm thrilled it's 27. It truly is home. So thanks to my family at home and my family at work. I appreciate it.
And now for some more fun, item 2.06, Educator of the Month. Ms. Corkdale?
Well, we are among many rock stars this morning, truly. Indispensable member of the science department at Southern High School. That's how our Educator of the Month for November 2020 is first described by her colleagues. Ashley Crossland, special education teacher, is the go-to person for all things, especially technology related. She initiates, develops, and implements outstanding programs for her students. Ashley's warm smile and outgoing personality naturally leads her to build meaningful relationships with her students and coworkers. Her students thrive on her enthusiasm and know that she has their best interest at heart. As a special education teacher, she goes above and beyond in helping her students to be successful. She encourages students to try their best and make sure all accommodations are in place. She works with students one-on-one during check-ins to assist them with work and understanding content, all while building a rapport with them. Her organized data helps to keep co-teachers, students, and parents and guardians in touch with students' progress and concerns. Ashley is a consummate professional and sets an example for her students as well as her colleagues in showing up for classes on time, prepared, and ready to work. Ms. Crossland, your positivity is uplifting to others around you. You make the students and staff feel comfortable, respected, and welcome in your office and classroom. For all these reasons and so many more, the Board of Education awards you as their November 2021 Educator of the Month. Congratulations. So if you could just join me up here really quick. So tell us a little bit about how they got you here today, and because that's always an adventure trying to surprise you guys.
Well, yeah, Miss Larning was like, "Oh, you're gonna go and take my place and go sit in a meeting for me," and I was like, "Okay." So we're looking around, going, and thankfully we have part of the science department here, and he's kind of leading me to. Elliot was over there, and he was like, "Oh, but just come sit with me." So it's very welcoming. And what are you doing here? I'm like, "I have no idea." and so yeah, so I'm sorry, I get nervous.
Oh, don't be
But-
nervous at all. So who are joining with you? Who's here with you today?
Our principal, Ms. Hopkins, and Ms. Elmore, who has been absolutely amazing since I've come to Southern High School. She's been like another mom to me. And Ms. Larney, our science department chair. So I appreciate them just as much because they have been amazing and very welcoming, and
Well,
couldn't do without them.
it's South County, right? And South County is just one big family, and we're so happy to have you there and a member, most importantly, of the AACPS family. Now, you will have a plaque forthcoming. There was a little bit of an engraving delay, however, but I would like to present you, of course, with something to put in your workspace, if you're inclined, and it is your award.
Thank you.
So when we were meeting virtually, those surprises are what I missed the most. That's so wonderful. Next, we have item 2.07, Employee of the Month. Ms. Omasori.
Before the world of virtual education, the students at Arundel Middle School knew the sound of Mr. Z's cart rolling down the hall. For them, this meant help was on the way for any technical glitches that may be occurring in their classroom. Over the last year and a half, Wayne Zawadi, a technology support technician, worked tirelessly preparing and helping students across the county obtain Chromebooks. When he was deployed to work other working sites, he let his Arundel Middle School family know where he would be and for how long, emphasizing that he was still available to assist by phone or through email. Now that we are back to in-person learning, Mr. Z is back to rolling his cart to every corner of the building, making certain that everything is in order. His willingness to help both staff and students has no limits. He is at work at 5 a.m. and rarely misses a day. No technology problem is too big or small for Mr. Z to address. He anticipates the need of the teachers and students and sets them up even before being asked. Mr. Z is the model of the philosophy that keeping the customer happy is what's most important. Mr. Zawadi, thank you for all that you have done and all that you continue to do for the students and staff of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Congratulations on being awarded the November 2021 Employee of the Month. please join me up front.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Well deserved.
Being an old guy. I'm older.
Like me.
You will be receiving a plaque, but there's been a bit of delay,
Thank you.
so for now, I'd like to present you with your Employee of the Month for
Thank you.
November 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's a pleasure. Always go in and speak to the boss every morning. And we always have like a Rodney Dangerfield joke. So I always say I get no respect. Now I get the respect. Thank you all. I just want to thank you all. Appreciate everybody who's here. Miss Matheny, I miss you dearly. Look at you. I didn't see you there too. All right. Miss Ballard. Mr. Crawford, love you. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Now for Volunteer of the Month, Ms. Dent.
Thank you, Madam President. Passionate volunteers can transform a school community in a beautiful and unexpected ways. Through their efforts, their volunteer work that turns our working lives into changing opportunities for the students. This is certainly the case for the volunteer we have here today to celebrate with us, Ms. Gina Giles. The Board of Education is thrilled to honor you as our November 2021 Volunteer of the Month. Ms. Giles has volunteered at Meade High School for over 3 years. She's organized a team of U.S. Cybercom experts that volunteers to sponsor Meade's Cyber Patriot program. At least once a week since fall of 2018, members of her team have worked with students exploring network administration, digital forensics, operating systems, computer hardware, and many other cybersecurity essentials. The positive impact of her efforts cannot be overstated. Frankly, this nomination is long overdue, says Ms. Giles' nominator, Mr. Justin Sirota. In reference to her more than 3 years of unwavering dedication, in summer of 2019, Ms. Giles helped organize a 2-week Cyber Patriot camp, during which she sponsored, out of her own pocket, a kickoff celebration with activities which included snacks and high-ranking influential guests. Mr. James Harden expressed astonishment that Mrs. Giles' team of individuals crossed multiple branches of the military, volunteered this week before even realizing that we were in a pandemic. Principal Frederick Rivers remarked that students are aware of Mrs. Giles' enthusiasm and recognize that it's going to be a good day when she shows up. And I like that because I think it is going to be a good day for us. Signature program facilitator James Hopper noted how blessed Meade High School is to have Gina Giles among their ranks, highlighting that the attention to detail and devotion that she has brought to our cybersecurity pathway could not be stronger. And in addition to all the incredible support and development that she brings daily, she also coordinates, and yes, even back in all the amazing treats for all the cybersecurity award nights and recognition ceremonies. It is clear that Mrs. Giles has a true one-of-a-kind approach in which she manages to share her immense industry knowledge and expertise with a truly unique approach and personal touch. It seems that James Hopper speaks for everyone when he says, "I could not be more grateful for all of the support Gina has given our students, staff, and the community, nor prouder of any industry partner." Mrs. Giles, you are an invaluable resource to both Meade High School and Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and we are truly grateful for your years of service and your service as a volunteer. Would you please come forward? And it's with great appreciation that I would like to present you our Volunteer of the Month certificate and bill to you.
Hi. And I came here to tell you how great Justin is. But during the pandemic, we went from one school to 10. And it was because of him helping us set up the operators from Cyber Command and NSA on the line in a building that they loaned us to do this from. And he brought 10 schools to the table. So thank you, Justin.
So we have 2 volunteers this month. Come on up, Justin.
Come on over here.
So it is really a great pleasure that I take pride in volunteers because I volunteer for this board. So volunteers really are near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate all the things that you're doing, not only at me, but for cybersecurity. So I appreciate that. And Justin, you have a great mentor, and I appreciate you for nominating her for this prestigious award. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, both of you. Smiling under the mask.
Yeah. Would you like to say a few words?
I just want to thank all of you for letting us do this. We've been working this program for 13 years, and when I got here a few years ago, I was looking for a school, and the one on the base, right on the campus, was the best place to start, and we had all these people who work every day doing cybersecurity for the nation, and they really are kind of bored because they're here alone, a lot of them are single, and they've been flocking out there trying to help us run the program at Meade. And then thanks to Justin, when COVID hit, we just moved it indoors and tried to reach out to their homes and teach them. So it's been a blast, and I appreciate all the support that you've given us, especially you, and Hopper and the whole group at Meade. We've really enjoyed every minute of this. In fact, today, I'm leaving here to go to Meade, and we're going to do a class out there. So we're pretty excited about it, and we appreciate your support.
Well deserved, and we appreciate all the support you've given not only to us, but to our students. Thank you very much.
And can I just say, I think it wasn't long before COVID that I believe some of us attended an event at Meade High School. And so when I heard the word about the treats in there, I remembered amazing treats at that. I remember that. Awesome.
Because Justin has built this beautiful computer lab, and we are going to do a ribbon cutting probably January. We haven't picked a date, but we're going to bring a lot of people from Cybercom NSA out there and show them, what he's done. And this will be your county lab.
State of the art.
Yes, we're really excited about that. So thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So we are going to break for a few minutes for some more official pictures of our All right, we are back. Item 3.01, President's Report. I have no update today. Item 3.02, Policy Committee Report. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you, President Ellis. The Policy Committee met on November 2nd. We reviewed Policy JECAA, Students with a Known Food Allergy, and voted to bring the policy forward at our next board meeting. We also discussed Policy EG, Naming of School Facilities, which has not been reviewed for a very long time. The policy will come following our discussion. The policy will come before the committee at our next meeting for review and a vote. The next policy committee meeting will be on Tuesday, November 30th at 3 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Item 3.03, PTA Report. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, President Ellis, VP Schellheim, Dr. Arlato, board members, and guests. My name is Mallory LaFawn, President of the Anne Arundel County Council of PTAs. On October 21st, we held a President and Financial Training online. The recording of the training, slides, and information will be made available on our website and our Facebook page. We have also started a Facebook group just for local PTA leaders. If you are a leader for your school, please connect with us at AACC PTA Leaders on Facebook. It's Reflections time. Anne Arundel County Councils of PTAs is looking for a Reflections chair. This position will be in charge of organizing and coordinating the National PTA's Reflections Art Program. Membership cards for the 21-22 school year are now available on the Free State PTA website at www.fspta.org/membership. Every year, AACC PTA awards 2 deserving Anne Arundel County Public School seniors $1,000 scholarships. The Kenneth Lawson Scholarship is awarded to a high school graduate who is planning to pursue a career involved in the field of education. And the Phoebe Apperson-Hurst Scholarship is awarded to the high school graduate who is planning a career in any subject other than education and/or private trade or technical institute. The 21-22 AACC PTA Scholarship Packet is now available. The packet can be found on our website or with counselors at each high school. Just a couple reminders, IRS and charitable renewal registration filings are due soon. 990s are due November 15th and charitable renewals are due December 3rd. If you need help with either form, please reach out to our AACC PTA treasurer, Lisa Crittenden, at treasurer@aaccpta.org. Harvest for the Hungry is still going strong. Please continue to remind families that donations are being accepted online until November 23rd, 2021. Any schools looking to restart or create a new PTA or PTSA, please reach out to us at info@aaccpta.org. Our next county council meeting is Tuesday, November 9th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. And a very important reminder, Anne Arundel County Councils of PTAs and any local PTA units in our county are only affiliated with Free State PTA. If your school or local PTA has been contacted by the former Maryland PTA, who is now the Maryland Alliance or Maryland Congress of Parents and Teachers, and/or Tanya Carrera, please do not continue correspondence with her. Instead, please contact me directly at president@aaccpta.org. We are excited to hear the COVID vaccines are now available to children ages 5 to 11. If you need help discussing these vaccines to your family, CNN and Sesame Street will be hosting a town hall on Saturday, November 6th at 8:30 a.m. that will be full of facts, information, and friends. AACC PTA supports and values the hard work and dedication of our teachers, administrators, and building staff. We are concerned for the welfare of these hardworking individuals and also want to make sure the county does whatever is necessary to prevent additional staffing shortages in the county. Just like we advocate and are concerned for our students, we also want to make sure our teachers and school staff are supported, respected, and treated fairly. We look forward to speaking with Dr. Arlato and President Ellis soon about these issues. As always, thank you for this opportunity to speak to the board. And also, I continue to encourage everyone listening to join your local PTA. Your support helps the PTA support our school community and advocate for our students, families, and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaFawn. Item 3.04, Superintendent's Report, School Operations. Dr. Arlott.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As always, I'm delighted to bring you some updates in a variety of areas, so bear with me. I always want to share each time some updated information from our COVID dashboard. Currently, we have 150 active student cases of COVID and 18 active staff cases. There are 1,280 students isolated or quarantined and 30 staff members at this time. As you can see from the data dashboard, which is updated daily on the AACPS website, the numbers are fluid as COVID cases rise and fall daily and weekly. The overall numbers, however, continue to trend downward. The number of quarantined students has dropped in 9 of the last 10 days. And the number of quarantined students is down 204 total in the last 10 days. We continue to support students that are quarantined. Fortunately, those numbers needing academic support due to quarantining continue to decrease. As you are aware, we are instituting a required vaccination or testing program for all our employees. As of yesterday, 96% of the staff have responded to the online attestation as to their vaccination status. Of those that have responded, 89% have attested to being vaccinated. 7% have attested that they are either not vaccinated or chose not to share information with us. And 4% have not responded at all. We continue our outreach so that we have a 100% response rate from our staff. We've extended the period for response as the system was down briefly during the storm last Friday. Weekly staff testing will begin November 22nd. Yesterday, we published the graduation schedule for the class of 2022. We are delighted that the Hall at Live will host 12 high school commencement ceremonies during the week of June 6th. As has been reported in the news, and you are well aware, the FDA and the CDC have approved the COVID vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. This morning, we published a list of school sites that will host vaccine clinics in collaboration with our Department of Health. There will be 2 school sites each day in different parts of the county, open 6 days a week. We do not yet know how many doses of the vaccine will be available each day. The online registration for the first week opens tonight at 7 p.m. We are anticipating new guidance from our Department of Health regarding contact tracing and quarantining of students. When finalized, this should significantly reduce the number of students that will have to be quarantined when identified as a close contact. We hope to implement these new guidelines beginning next Monday. More information to come as we work with Dr. K and his team. As we've talked about in the past, we have been preparing for a student surveillance testing or pool testing program in our schools. We are beginning with 6 pilot schools. They are South River High School, Arundel Middle School, Bates Middle School, Lithicum Elementary School, Van Bachman Elementary School, and Tyler Heights Elementary School. Parents have been contacted in each of those schools where permission is being sought for their students to participate in the surveillance testing program. It is an opt-in program. I can tell you to date, very, very, very few parents have taken us up on this offer. Just a handful have agreed to a voluntary testing surveillance testing program in those schools. As I've shared before, we are piecing together a job fair with the Anne Arundel County Workforce Development Corporation, which will be on Tuesday, November 16th from 4 to 7 p.m. in the cafeteria at Severna Park High School. This joint initiative with County Workforce Development, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and our Human Resource Office, and the County Recreation and Parks. All three entities are partnering on the advertisement and staffing elements for this event. While transportation-related positions, drivers and aides, will certainly be highlighted, with representation from our AACPS Transportation Office and our contractors are all invited to staff recruitment tables. We will also have recruitment tables for a host of other AACPS positions, which include various operations and maintenance staff, food and nutrition, cafeteria staff, IT computer tech staff, secretaries, clerks, TAs, TSAs, substitutes, and lunch and recess monitors. The Department of Recreation and Parks will have tables to recruit childcare workers and camp and pool counselors. Our transportation issues, as you know, continue. As I've shared previously, we appear to be taking positive steps forward in the effort to hire the needed bus drivers so as to resolve all uncovered routes. Unfortunately, we have drivers out each day and also a number that are having to quarantine, and there are no substitute drivers available, which means that the number of uncovered routes ebbs and flows on a daily basis. As we've discussed in the past, we have virtual homework help and tutoring available to our students. Approximately 140 teachers are supporting virtual drop-in homework help and small group tutoring this fall. The program is currently available to all secondary students in the following subjects: English, language arts and reading, social studies, which includes general middle school social studies, U.S. history, U.S. government, and world history, science, which includes general middle school science, environmental science, biology, chemistry, and physics, math, which includes general middle school math, algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus, and AP statistics. World and classical languages, which includes Spanish, French, Chinese, and ESOL, and computer science. The virtual homework help and tutoring program began on September 19th and has served more than 720 students in homework help and more than 180 through virtual tutoring during Q1 of this school year. We do have the capacity to serve more students. We encourage students and families to consider taking advantage of this free extra academic support. Please visit our website at www.aacps.org/fall 2021 to learn more. As I've shared with you on many occasions, our focus has been on reopening our schools for in-person learning for all students and to do so in as safe a manner as possible given the current and ever-changing circumstances. We have successfully reopened our schools to the delight of our students and staff, and this was accomplished because of the efforts of our administrators, teachers, building service and facilities teams, secretaries, central office personnel, and so many more, especially our students and their families. Our efforts now focus on keeping the schools open for the entire school year. While we all want to return to normal and put the pandemic completely behind us, as I've stated before, we're not there yet. For the health and safety of our students and staff and our focus on keeping our schools open for the entire year, we must continue to be vigilant. We must also make decisions with those priorities in mind. We will continue to collaborate the collaborative work with our Department of Health. As public health advice and guidance changes, so too will our processes and protocols. Our students and staff are simply amazing, and we are thrilled that our students have returned to full in-person learning. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Arlotto. Ms. Schalheim.
Thank you for your update as always. I have a question about new quarantine guidelines. Can we be more specific at this point as to what that might entail, considering they might go live on Monday? What are you in conversations with Dr. K and the Department of Health to do to change?
So nothing is finalized. And so I want to be very, very clear about that. And that's the reason I will be short on too many specifics. But the plan is to, with the guidance of the Department of Health, that our quarantine guidelines will include fewer students if students are properly wearing a mask. So we will be able to rule out students that are in proximity of a positive case if, through the contact tracing process, we're able to determine that the students are properly wearing a mask, which should significantly reduce the number of students that we are having to quarantine at this time. Basically, it takes away the distancing requirements during the contact tracing process. This has been an option that has now been offered by the Maryland Department of Health. While not being recommended by the Maryland Department of Health, it is an option that has been open to local departments of health to work out with their local school systems.
One follow-up on that. When you say masking, would that require both parties to be properly masked at that moment?
Correct.
So the close contact with the positive case, if the close contact was properly masked, but the other person wasn't, that would still require the close contact to quarantine.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Thank you, President Ellis. So a couple of questions, Dr. Arlotta, with regard to the transportation, ongoing challenges of bus drivers. I hear from a lot of families that there's often very late notice about when a bus is taken off a route. And I just want to clarify again sort of how this information is getting to us. You know, what's the process and how do we get that information that ultimately goes out to families?
So we work closely with and are at the mercy at the same time of our bus contractors. So when they don't have a driver, they notify us. We, of course, our underlying rule is that they notify us as soon as they know, so that we can post that information and let families know. So as you're well aware, that contact starts through Mr. Mosier and his team. That starts in the evening prior to the school day, and then multiple times up through until noon of that current school day, should there be any changes to that. Mm-hmm. There are instances where the bus company simply doesn't know somebody's not going to come to work until somebody doesn't come to work. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as we know, as soon as they notify us, we put that information out there.
And just a quick follow-up on that. There are levers in the sense that we can pull in the sense of penalties for bus companies that when they don't run a route. So when that bus is pulled, there's something that kicks in based on our contractual setup with them, right? That they A, don't get a certain payment, and B, owe us something, or?
So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
We've discussed this in the past. The way our contracts are written with our bus contractors, that there are two pieces to that response, mm-hmm. which you have alluded to. The first is if a route isn't run. So our bus companies bid on and are awarded through the contracting process for each of the routes that they're responsible for, whether they're responsible for 10 routes or 90 routes. They bid on each one, and then they are awarded that route. If a route is not run in the morning, in the afternoon, or both, then the contractor doesn't get paid for running that route. Mm-hmm. Additionally, there are damages in the contract that the contractor will have to work through with our team. That there are, I don't know exactly how all that process works, but I leave that to the contracting team. But yes, there are liquidated damages that the contractor is responsible for not meeting their contractual obligation.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And one other quick question. Recently, some information was posted specifically for Annapolis High School, I assume around the county, regarding lead, the testing of water, lead levels in water. There are, my understanding is, a lot of faucets, et cetera, at Annapolis High in particular, where levels are higher than they should be. And I just wondered if you could update us generally on kind of where we are with that. I mean, has there been a change in one direction or another, and how are we proceeding to mitigate? I know there's a whole process going forward to mitigate this, but I would just like to hear if there's an update on that.
So I don't have an update. I
Okay.
wasn't prepared to speak to it.
Okay.
I certainly know that the environmental team, has got their arms around this. This is what you are speaking to. For those that are not aware, this is a result of legislation that went through several years ago. Prior to COVID, we had the first step was we had to test every school and every outlet in every school. We did that in year one. Then the legislation dictates that each school system in the state then has to test a third of their buildings over 3 periods. So over 3 years, you get to, again, 100% of your buildings.
Right.
We were in that process of year 2 and beginning that when COVID hit with no students. One of the rules is that you have to have students in the building, meaning that water is running through the pipes to get accurate
measures.
tests.
Right.
So we had to suspend that process. Recently, before you approved a contract with a testing agency that we've used in the past. Now that we're back in school, we are restarting and going back to where we were in our succession of testing schools to start that process again. And so we will, as we had built prior to COVID, a website that families could check. They'll be notified when the testing has been done and what the results were of that testing.
Okay. So when there's a follow-up, that would be great. Appreciate
I'll
it.
be glad to share information.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Ms. Corkadell?
Thank you, President Alice. A couple of questions. I thought I turned. I'm a double clicker. I don't know what to say. So concerning, I wanted to talk a little bit about our integration. I know you didn't report on it with Bright Sprays, and I understand we continue to make progress. Is there any way we can get like an evening virtual tutoring walkthrough for the parents and students to do that together? The parents are really interested in being engaged with their students' education, and the conveyance of the information, especially with our younger kids' parents. The kid may know what to click and how to click, but to reteach their parent how to do that may be a little too far of a bridge for this year. And some of the suggestions I've been hearing from those folks was maybe we could have a couple virtual tutoring and training sessions for them, the walkthrough, where everybody sees on the screen, now click this, and they're literally following through on those basics, like how to get the grades, how to upload homework assignments, particularly for our kids who are quarantining. That's, I think, where the gap of the learning curve kind of caught us, because we didn't anticipate, obviously, having to quarantine, such an excess per positivity case. And so I just wanted to ask, is there some plans in the works for our parents, and what does that look like?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. So there indeed is a plan for the parents. We have hired an individual that is a parent who has some particular skills in this area, and she will be overseeing parent outreach and communication and tutoring, to use that word. So I can't speak to exactly what she has planned, but yes, I will pass on the concept of virtual tutoring. But through our family partnerships office. We've used some of our grant money to bring somebody in, knowing that we were going to be transitioning to this new LMS and that parents would want some assistance with that. And so she is building those connections and building those tutorials, and then she'll be rolling that out. I don't know that I have anything else. Dr. McMahon, did I hit all the highlights?
Okay,
So,
sounds good. And then my other question is, when the pandemic first hit and we were rolling about a year ago the same time, and throughout even into the spring months and into the fall, there was a lot of discussions about, if we hit this mark of positivity rate, if we drop to this level, we will be able to lift the following. We will be able to relax the following, encourage versus require. And I know that Dr. Kalyana Raman had reported to us back in August that they were working towards that. And so we're now approaching into November, and different from last year, the number is here to here, kind of dropping, stable to dropping, depending on which chart you're looking at. And I believe they're having another press conference about that, of what a great job Maryland has done. And, I did the fast math, and I mean, 89% of our staff, that's an awesome number, guys. That's above our net average for the state. So when would you anticipate? I know that the state also, I want to predicate on December the 7th is having the State Board of Education is going to be having a session discussing the mask mandate, as well as the quarantining and the close contact and the contact tracing, as it relates as a whole bigger picture, reassessing and reevaluating. When would we be expected to get a little bit more solid numbers to know when our end game is, or what our end game number is? Like having the goal, because I think part of the consternation of folks and the uneasiness, just like in transportation, is that there's not here's the end game. It's not defined. And when things aren't defined for durations, I think it leads to some uneasiness. So just a suggestion or any additional information you could provide on that would be helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Corkadell. So I have no information to share. I completely agree that having sort of that end game, the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, I'll use those words to say we can look forward to as we get to, and you reference early on in this process, we talked a lot about metrics, right? What do the metrics have to be for us to be able to do X, Y, or Z? And so I don't know. Those numbers have not been shared with me. Those are numbers that are going to have to be generated by the departments of health. I can tell you in the meetings, and I attend weekly, if not daily meetings with our local Department of Health or the Maryland Department of Health. Nobody has mentioned or shared specific metrics with any of the superintendents in the state to say when we get to a specific level, then we are going to do differently by contact tracing or differently by quarantining or differently by masking. I do appreciate that you brought up that the State Board of Education has put forward publicly that at their early December meeting, they plan to have a conversation and revisit the current statewide mask mandate. And it may be at that time that they look at data and ask for very specific numbers from the Maryland Department of Health to guide them in that process. And so we are, fingers crossed, we are hopeful that the numbers will continue to decline and that our state board will release the mask mandate and that we'll be able to relax more of our quarantining and COVID mitigation strategies. So I really, all that said, it's a long-winded answer. I don't have numbers to share with you, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so I think it's important to note for us that this sounds like the state needs to step up and make those decisions. And I would just suggest it should be sooner versus later, because the learning loss that is created under the quarantine to no fault of ourselves, and our local health officer cannot make those decisions in a vacuum either to be able to share with us. So it really continues to put us in a challenge in a rock and a hard spot and a very big wedge, because I think we need some hope here, because while everybody else is moving quite well along in every industry but education, and it's just very frustrating, and I appreciate your continued advocacy. And it sounds like we maybe as a group want to consider advocating at the state level to get to continue to get some clarity and seek it. Thank you.
Ms. Frank?
So my first question, thank you, Dr. Tobin, for bringing up the lead. I'm always fascinated by our water situation and a little emotionally invested in the ongoing saga that has generated. So just to go back a couple of years ago, when that state legislation arose and some of the origin of that, there was a backlog, if you'll recall, because we only had one company, and that was Martell, I believe, that was doing these testings. And if I recall correctly, we were struggling to keep up because everybody was using Martell at one time. Are there any, and I know we just renewed a contract with them, and I'm thrilled with that, but are there other companies now that do that? Or is it just that we had so much at once? Because we don't seem to have a backlog now, and I feel like everybody has started up again. Is that a concern? Is that not an issue? Could you just give a little bit of information?
Again, I apologize. I was not prepared
Sorry.
to discuss this topic. It was not brought to me prior. So I just,
Okay.
I hate to not give you specific
Okay.
information. I just don't have it. I can say that you're right. We did have a backlog. So we were at that time back then able to hire a second company that helped us move through this process. So we are able to do that. I don't know. Do we have a second company online right now? No, the answer is no. We don't have a second company online, but we did at that time. We were able to bring somebody else on that helped us move through that more quickly and get us on pace to where we needed to be so that we could get through a third of our schools each school year.
Okay. So we don't anticipate any problems with that. We're
Right
rocking
now,
and rolling.
none have been brought to me, but we seem to be on target.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you so
No,
much.
thank you.
I have a couple other questions. Sorry. So at the October 5th meeting, you mentioned the parent who was going to be helping other parents and that you'd hired them at the family partnerships. So I went on there to try to find that, because that was exactly what I was thinking too. I really want to see where this goes. And I found the Family Academy, and it was almost like a teaser trailer of things to come. Can you tell me when that's going to be online and exactly what that will be helping parents with? Because it seems like a good resource, but I couldn't find any more information on it. So I'd love to kind of hear about it.
I can't give you specifics, Dr. McMahon. Anything you can share in particular? Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lotto. Ms. Frank, you're asking a good question. So what we're in the midst of doing, there are many videos posted online for parents, but what we're in the midst of doing is actually making sure our teachers are feeling comfortable and confident. We've talked about going slow to go fast. And so we haven't rolled out officially the parent piece where the parents can log in themselves yet. Any parent sitting right next to their student can get into Brightspace because the student has full login rights. So if a parent would like to sit down next to their student to see what their student sees, that's a journey the child can take them on, the student can take them on. But what the parent piece, that's really going to be a parent academy of learning, and it'll have virtual professional development for parents. What that'll happen, and it can happen very soon, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have our teachers comfortable and confident before we bring our parents into a space where teachers are feeling uneasy and students might be feeling a bit uneasy. So we're doing it specifically, one step at a time, and in order that we think makes the most sense for these stressful times.
Do we have a anticipated rollout date for the Family Academy to be up and rolling, or not yet?
So we've had multiple conversations, including a steering committee about a week ago. And so We haven't picked a final date yet, and in consultation with the superintendent, we will, but we could do it before the holidays, and we could also wait until the January timeframe to let the holidays be part of the comfortability time.
And is this academy the same as the parent help, or is this part of that, or is this something totally different?
So the virtual academy kind of piece for Brightspace is one thing. And then beyond that, it will be a virtual academy for support mechanisms through Brightspace, using Brightspace as the foundational component to support families who are looking to support their students with helping them with mathematics at the elementary school, helping them with language arts or reading, right? And so we'll have specific things set up for parents inside the Brightspace community, just like they were a student, to launch it. But in order to get there, we first have to get parents into their own account in Brightspace.
Okay, all right, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's all my questions. Thank you so much.
Couple things. First of all, I received the notification about the Annapolis High School as a parent, the water testing, and immediately asked one of my students, "Where are you getting your water?" And she said, "There's filling stations throughout the school." So that, that is a bit of comfort. We certainly don't want lead in any of the water, but just for those who might not realize that. So Dr. Alato, back to transportation, can you give us a sense of where we are today compared to September 8th, as far as could you give a ballpark percentage of improvement of the situation? Or, I'm trying to get a sense, I think a lot of people are, of have we made a dent in this? Where are we at this point?
Thank you. So as I've stated on a number of occasions, we continue to take 2 steps forward, and we have been hiring drivers and bringing them on board. Our contractors, we're working very closely with them. It's not been nearly enough to close the gap. As you well know, we need 60 drivers in order to get us back to that equilibrium space that we have been in the past. The difficulty has been, and it ebbs and flows. We were at points last week. We were early on last week at 36 routes uncovered. Several days later, we were down to 16 routes uncovered. I think this morning or yesterday morning, we were at 29 routes uncovered. And that is just simply a case of, I'm going to use a very simple term, life. We've got drivers that are calling out sick, which of course they're allowed to be sick, or they're being quarantined, or they have their own appointments and they're taking time off. We, like all of us, we've had drivers that have overslept and not made their route in the morning, but then they were there in the afternoon. So there is a variety of, and so I can get you some hard figures on the number of drivers that have been hired since September, since we started. I can do that. But again, I go back to the difficult position we're in is that there are no substitute drivers to pick up those typical life occurrences when somebody is out and they can pick up a route. And that leaves us to Dr. Tobin's point about notification about when a driver is not going to be there. As soon as we know, we want to notify parents as quickly as possible. But there are life events sometimes where somebody just doesn't come to work or not feeling well and they call in at the last minute.
Thank you. I get that. We still have some routes, I believe, that just hasn't had a driver, right?
Yes.
And I've received questions about sort of why are we not sharing the burden throughout the community? In other words, in those cases where there is an ongoing chronic lack of a bus covering a route, should we be rotating that particular bus to impact different routes? And I don't know logistically what's involved in that, but I'm asking the question because people are asking that.
And I think it's a good question. We certainly, I don't know if the team has talked specifically about rotating routes. I know that some of the parents that I have talked with would rather know long-term that they have to try and solve this problem for their child, for themselves now, as opposed to from week to week. So I think there's two sides to that coin. I think it's a good question. I certainly can take back to the team to see if the contractors are agreeable to switching out drivers. I do worry about drivers not knowing where they're going, right? You learn a route and you get good at that route and you get the students there on time from pickup to drop off. And if we start to rotate drivers, I guess I would be a little concerned about, I don't know the routes this week because I drove a different route last week or yesterday. I don't know that that's a showstopper in answering your question, but I certainly can bring that back to the team for further discussion.
I appreciate it. And that's why I said, you know, I don't know what's involved logistically. I recognize, obviously, that's a complicated solution for sure, but it is a concern, particularly from some of our neighborhoods of lesser means that are impacted. And I just want to make sure it's clear. So MSDE updated their guidance, and there's various options for how a school system could, I guess, what our quarantine policy could be. And so you're saying that out of those options, they're not recommending sort of the least restrictive option, but it is an option for every school system.
So it's the Maryland Department of Health.
Okay.
It's the Maryland Department of Health, and they have produced options. They are not recommending any of the options that they are giving local school systems and local departments of health to choose from or work from. So they made it very, very clear in a meeting with superintendent, an emergency meeting with superintendents online last Thursday, when they shared this information with us, that the Maryland Department of Health is not recommending any change to the current CDC guidance. No change. But they have produced options, and I'm using my words carefully because this is what was shared with the superintendents. Options are being shared with local school systems to work with their local departments of health to see if they want to or are able to implement any of the three options. There were three options shared.
Okay.
And so we then in turn met with, that was a Thursday afternoon meeting. And that evening I had our regularly scheduled meeting with our Department of Health. The local health officers had also been briefed on these, and we began the conversations immediately with our Department of Health Thursday evening. In fact, I met with Dr. Kalyana then, and then again later that night at 7:00 to talk about the possibilities.
Right. So currently we don't have an option as far as students and staff wearing masks in school, but based on current state mandates or lack of mandates, we do have options as far as quarantining, and that's a local decision.
We've now been given options that we can choose from to implement in conjunction with our local departments of health. Yes. And so again, that's what I reported to the board that we are working on. I am hopeful in so far my meetings with Dr. Kalyana multiple times since last Thursday that we will we'll have some new guidance from him and changes to our current protocols that we can implement beginning Monday, at the very least at the high school level, because those students have had the greatest access to vaccines.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Sure.
Schallheim.
Sorry, I realized I had a couple more things to ask you. It does have to do with school opening, and certainly teachers and workload. So I'm just going to put it out there. I saw on our neighboring counties, one of our board members in our neighboring county in Howard County put out the the fact that they are talking about several days in the current school year's calendar where they are intentionally taking off 3 hours early as a way to provide some respite um, to teachers and staff, a chance to get caught up and the like. And I wasn't. I've heard about this in other places. I know we're bound by state law. Yes, state. I still have a problem with the law that we have a days and an hours mandate, and those two pots can't be intermingled. And for reasons unclear, the hours were selected as they were. Be that as it may, are you thinking about? Have you heard about that? And are you pondering maybe making a recommendation to us about that sort of thing? You know, in a perfect world, and when my mother used to taught in Southern California, every week there was an early day for similar reasons. And I know that that's might be burdensome to do it every week for our working parents, but if there was a few extra dates in the calendar for the purposes of regaining one's mental health and sanity, I just wanted to know what you thought about that, and if there's any move towards making a recommendation to us on those lines.
There is indeed. It's something we've been working on. In fact, I discussed it with your president yesterday in our regularly scheduled meeting. And so it's something that we've been working on. In fact, I'm sure Howard County heard about it from us, but it's something that we are working on.
Oh.
And I've already had a discussion with the board president yesterday about some possibilities.
Oh, I had no idea.
I didn't expect that you would, because I had only talked it over with the board president, and we are working on some possibilities to present to the board.
Okay, hopefully next meeting.
It will require a calendar, official change to the calendar,
Yes, it would.
which is in the purview of the board. So
Got
I'd
it.
have to bring it to you. So working on that.
Wow, that knocked me over with a feather. That's great. That's good news. I'm delighted to hear that. I wasn't thinking I was gonna, because of the way the law is and the state and whatever. So thank you for that. That's
Well, great.
I look
And
forward
it's,
to
we
that.
have to, and all part of when we have the plan finalized, but you appropriately bring up that there are hours. So there are
Yes.
days,
Yes,
but
and
then there are hours. And so we confirmed with the state this morning what our hours are to make sure that we're operating with them on the same number. So Mr. Mosier was able to confirm with the state what we have on writing and what they have in writing matches regarding the number of hours available. So we might be able to work something out.
Wow, nice. Fantastic. And then my second question is more of a logistics question with regard to the upcoming vaccination clinics. I don't think it comes as any surprise to you, this board, people in the audience, or anyone listening at home, how thrilled I am to finally be able to get my daughter vaccinated and her peers. I know a lot of parents are feeling the same way. I haven't actually been able to exhale in the last 20 months because I live with an unvaccinated person. That being said, I understand that this is we're at the mercy of the doses that are available to not just this county, but to the school system in terms of being able to distribute in our various schools. I saw the release. I love the release. I love the plan. If the amount that we receive is much less than what we're anticipating, I think I asked a version of this question last time. What is then the logistical plan to move forward with clinics at that point?
So I'm going to attempt to answer your question, but you can't write this down or etch this in stone because it is purely out of our hands.
Yes.
Right? The clinics are being staffed by the Department of Health. We are assisting and opening up our schools, and we are delighted to do so. So we don't know how many doses will be available. That information has not been shared with me. The immediate plan is we will stay the course with the schools and the times that we have published. If there are fewer doses, we will stay the course. It just means there'll be fewer doses allotted to each of those clinics. as opposed to closing clinics, canceling them, and consolidating doses into certain places. Right now, the plan is to keep those sites open, just with fewer doses, depending on the number that arrive. And I just don't know how many that is and how our Department of Health will divide those out. That is out of my league.
So there is a possibility that one could show up to a clinic and then be potentially, God forbid, turned away if the doses don't match the numbers that show up.
I don't believe so, because it's through the registration process. They will release the number of doses that they know they have in hand. Right?
Fantastic.
So that's my, right. At 10 minutes to 2 in the afternoon.
10 minutes to 2 in the
And
afternoon.
we say that tongue in cheek, but I want to be really clear, not just with the board, but with the public, that we hope that we have lots and lots of doses.
I hope so too.
And we hope that we have lots and lots of people that want to take advantage of it. But that's the plan now, that we'll be able to release the number of registrations based on the number of doses that we've been told they will have on hand at each of those sites.
Got it. And forgive the PTSD. It was like the Hunger Games getting vaccinated in the early days, and it was a miserable experience. So we
do not want it to be a miserable experience.
Yes, for adults
that
had to get vaccinated at that time.
We're delighted that our county government, Dr. K and his team have worked so closely with us on this. This is important, and Mrs. Jackson and her team that she built to put this together, which they've been working again in the background for weeks to have this ready, waiting for this day, waiting for the approval letter, came last night, and we were able to press the button and push the information out this morning. So thank you to Mrs. Jackson and her team. Well done.
And my gratitude as well. Really, thank you to Dr. Lotto, to Ms. Jackson, to your staff, to the Department of Health, to Dr. Colleen Rahman. Really, thank you. This is a long time in coming. Let's go. Thank you so much.
Ms. Corkadell?
Thank you, President Alice. Between Dr. Tobin and yourself, it triggered just a couple follow-ups. So, Dr. Arlotto, just to check back in with transportation. I know that Alex had mentioned that they were trying to work on some ideas of how to get more of a duration communication to the dozen buses left that are in that long term, still hasn't had a bus since day one. I don't know what that number is in particular. Is it, what do we know what that number is? The routes that have been offline since day one, how many are left? About 11, or is it?
I don't have that.
No, I mean, since the first day. So we dropped down, and those are the ones since the first day. So
I think it's roughly a dozen. I think your memory serves you. I think the number's roughly a dozen, but I don't have that information in front of me.
So in the meantime, as we continue to explore, and this is aside from any shuffling or something like that, I mean, that has, I understand some challenges. But if we know that route's still going to stay offline, and I'm not talking about the outages for quarantining and colds and flus or their kids get quarantined. I mean, a lot of parents are having to stay home for that, perfectly healthy, burning through their sick days. So I'm just wondering why we could not still have that daily notification, but let them know that we do not anticipate. And I don't think a parent's going to be upset if we call them and tell them we got the bus driver back early. But I do believe that with the childcare outages co-occurring, that is exacerbating it. And I'm just wondering what is maybe limiting our ability to do that and say, okay, for the month of November, we know that, like, I know my son's bus route is in that condition, and I've got a few more obviously in the district, but this is for every single one, whether you're in Annapolis, you're there, and you're up in, different parts of the county, the old mail corridor, just to know that, okay, for the month of November, I know I need to plan for this. And it allows, most important, not just the internal family planning, but the planning coordination that they need to keep their jobs. and to stay employed, and for their employers to be able to help them. The employers, I believe, want to support the families and cannot if they're not given that information. So I think we have employers who would be willing to be more flexible for longer, and but that makes it hard for them too, because they are put in a position of not being able to support their employee because of the information in that realm. And so could you maybe share with folks maybe what some of those discussions are surrounding that, and what the obstacles may be, and what we're doing to work towards that?
Yes, ma'am. Glad to. If I'm not mistaken, we sent out contacts to several of the several routes that have remained consistently no service uncovered, to say just that very thing to the parent. I think some of our bus contractors have been a little, when you say barriers, because it's a great question, I think some of them have been a little reticent to declare that they're not going to be able to find a driver for those immediate routes. But there were several, if I'm not mistaken, communiques that went out to some of the routes to say it's been uncovered, and it appears for the foreseeable future it is going to remain uncovered.
That's good progress to hear. I would suggest, however, we reapproach or something for the others, because I was not in that category.
Understood.
So I was not even aware we started that. And I know that Alex had reported to the board on numerous occasions they were trying to work on how to get that. Knowing that there's a process in place that may limit that is, I think, important for the parents to know that. Number one is we're trying and doing our best to it. But I would just encourage that we continue to try to get as many of them in that. And I think that would be like the happy holiday surprise if they come to find that the bus does show up, even though we said the month of December that it wasn't.
Understood.
And unfortunately, yeah, I think we do need to recognize December and into the winter break, and just come clean with it. But as I said, from the employer perspective, that's what I'm starting to hear. Because employers are reaching out to, I don't know about my fellow members, but they're reaching out to me and they're saying, can I please have my employees back? And I want to be helpful, and I can't for planning. So I appreciate you considering the suggestion. And just out of curiosity, are we told how many of these drivers are under quarantine or not? I presume that they're part of our contact tracing network, correct? How many are we averaging? I mean, I see the spikes, but they're not necessarily indicative. But we do have the numbers on the quarantining for our staff and students. That'd be a good number to start to look into getting, because I think it would help put in perspective for the people too, what we are facing regarding the quarantining and the buses and the bus drivers. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Silkworth?
Thank you, President Ellis. I don't have a comment. I would like to thank Dr. Alada for his update. I simply want to publicly let it be known that we've heard this afternoon about several strategies already in the works to help our teachers, our students, and our staff. I can tell you that other strategies and possibilities are also being discussed. We recognize the current levels of stress for everyone, and we have been and we are actively engaged in trying to create strategies to help. I would suggest as well that this board would welcome suggestions and recommendations from our teachers, students, and staff, and any stakeholder. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Silkworth. I would love nothing more than today to have a list of items that are, set in stone. We're doing these things today, but absolutely these things are in the works, and there is more. And I really greatly appreciate your statement, Mr. Silkworth. Thank you. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. A couple of other, I hope, short questions came up. So with regard to the vaccination clinics, Dr. Arlotto, can you just lay out for us how the vaccination sites were determined, the clinic sites were determined for AACPS?
Yes, ma'am, it was done. The lead came from our Department of Health and the data they have on their ability to deliver vaccines, how vaccines were accessed by various neighborhoods. And then our team was able to sit down with them and develop. They chose areas of the county that they wanted to target, and then we helped pick schools that we felt were that could be most conducive. Something like the size of the parking lot and the cafeteria, the ease of access from a particular neighborhood, those neighborhoods that were served by walkers more than bused, all of those things were considered, but we took the lead of the Department of Health as they picked areas that they wanted to target for youngsters, and then we helped identify schools to host clinics.
And just to follow up on that, I'm assuming, as we do with all things, that equity from our perspective was part of that discussion with regard to the students then who would have access?
Completely. And Mrs. Jackson wouldn't have it any other way.
Another question I have is with regard to signing up for your child's vaccination slot. For families that don't have easy or even in some cases any reliable internet access, are there alternative methods for signing up?
Not that I'm aware of that we have through us, but the Department of Health has ways that they're putting people out on the street. Mrs. Schalheim is giving me the high sign that apparently phone calls are going out.
They can do it by phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I don't.
So it can be done by phone
For the
as well?
Department of Health, yes.
So those are for the Department of Health, not necessarily our.
Yes, but they're all going out tonight, both links.
Got it. Okay.
And
Simultaneously,
text
and that was worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems to me that brings up an important point, just to remind the public that there are multiple, I mean, we have our AACPS hosted vaccination sites, right? But those are not the only vaccination
Correct.
sites.
Yeah, we are part of the larger plan that Dr. K and his team have built. And
Right.
so
Okay.
there's communication going out from pediatricians, local clinics, the community college is hosting a site, and we are part of the larger plan.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm going to take a guess that Mr. Mosier has more to share.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mosier.
Thank you. For the record, Bob Mosier, Chief Communications Officer. So all of the registration is done on a server housed at the health department, run by the health department. But our sites, any of our parents who go to our sites, there is also a link to the health department sites. So
Okay.
they are cross-pollinated, so to speak.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I see no more lights. Thank you, Dr. Arlotta. And now for the public comment portion of our meeting. I apologize. Give me a moment. Should have been more prepared. Where's my list? Here we go. My apologies. Next we will move on to public comment, and we have 3 speakers here today that are in person. Speakers will be allotted 2 minutes each and may not allocate their time to others. The buzzer will indicate when your time has expired. The board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing this meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. Please keep your comments specific to the agenda item for which you signed up. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. And speaking today on item 3.01 or 4, Superintendent's Report, School Operations, we begin with Katie. I'll call up Katie Davis and Nell Codner so that you can both, one can take a seat and one can speak and take your turn.
Good afternoon, Katie Davis. I'm a former student of the county and a parent of 2 children. members of the board, Dr. Arlotto. The automated telephone notification system is for alerting parents to emergencies and other important issues and events. Friday's notice with the president's and superintendent's responses to TAC was an overreach. It is mind-blowing that the letter probably went through several hands and someone still thought it was a good idea to send through the system. On AACPS's Facebook page, there are over 500 angry emojis on this topic and over 500 comments. You tried to drive a wedge between parents and TAC, but we are all part of the same community. Those are our neighbors. You tried to distinguish between the awesome teachers and TAC, but TAC is composed of awesome teachers. The unintended consequence of that letter was to energize parents like myself who haven't been following the teachers union as closely. I came to my first Board of Ed meeting several years ago, and what I remember were the testimonies from the teachers struggling because of the steps they had missed. A man stood right here and talked about his second job as an Uber driver. Brene Brown writes about wholehearted living, which requires courage, compassion, and connection. Teachers show up every day in their classrooms connecting with students and teaching and leading with courage and compassion. I know this firsthand from the 50+ teachers I had as a student and the 4 teachers that my sons have had. Are you honestly leading with courage and compassion? What would Friday's letter look like with less blame and more accountability? At the last meeting, an elementary school was recognized as #1 in the state. You don't get that from a building or even a neighborhood. It's the teachers and staff. There is going to be a mass exodus of teachers and staff from this county if you don't get this right. Please do better.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nell Codner. I'm a mother of Anne Arundel County Elementary School students, and the opinions I'm presenting here on my own time are my own and may not reflect those of my employer. I appreciate all the good work that has gone into making school as safe as possible to attend in person. Dr. Arlotto and his team have brought opportunities like on-site rapid testing to help keep our snotty-nosed kids in the class, and mask mandates to keep students and their teachers safe. My children are bringing home fewer germs and more smiles. They're also bringing home their love for past and current teachers. Teachers were always strong role models for me, and I see this continuing into the next generation. I'm sure each one of you clearly remembers your favorite elementary school teachers. We can't operate schools without teachers. We don't succeed as a society without teachers. My mother was a teacher, so I know teachers are overstressed, overworked, and underpaid, but I thought at least Anne Arundel County teachers were paid commensurate with other local counties. Lucky for me, President Ellis and Dr. Arlotto used the school notification system on Friday to send out their complaints about negotiating with TAC. I got quite an education this weekend about how unfairly our veteran teachers are compensated due to a past salary freeze, and further demands being heaped upon all our teachers by the board and the president, and superintendent, who routinely sing their teachers' praises. If our teachers are as valued as you claim they claim they are, and as valuable as they have shown themselves to be, I will look forward to another message, however you choose to send it, telling me you have fulfilled your obligations to our teachers. I wondered if your folly in using the school notification system was not in fact designed to raise public support for teachers. If so, it worked. I support our teachers. We need to give them a reason to stay and keep AACPS awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Ms. Codner, I also have you signed up for consent items, awards,
I can do that now.
award of contracts. Yeah, you're next.
Hey. Good afternoon. I'm Nell Codner, mother of Anne Arundel County Elementary School students, an Anne Arundel County taxpayer. And as I mentioned before, the opinions I'm presenting here are my own, on my own time, and may not reflect those of my employer. I applaud the contracts and purchasing administrative staff for their consistent use of contracting mechanisms to save the county time and money when competing contracts and procuring resources for our students and schools. 3 of the contracts you are consenting to today leverage cooperative agreements or other mechanisms with other counties. This leveraging of other contracts will result in quicker access to resources. In this case, my personal favorite here is the therapeutic aids for students who need them. Aids benefit not only the students to which they are assigned, but they make a positive impact on the classmates. They demonstrate empathy, inquisitiveness, and the joy of accomplishment. And they serve as another strong role model in and out of the classroom. I'm glad to see this contract consented to today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Codner was the last speaker. That concludes our public comment. Next, we're in section 5, consent items, award of contracts.
Can I move to bundle? please?
Second.
Okay. Do I have consensus to bundle?
Sure you do.
All right, Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend that the Board of Education authorize the award of the contracts as listed on today's agenda, 5.01 through 5.04.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, sound like the Wonder Twins.
Do I?
I'm sorry. Little 70s throwback.
I see no lights. Any questions or discussion? All right, Ms. Howe.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Ms. Omasore,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim,
Aye.
Ms. Ellis.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Item 6.01, administrative personnel appointments. Did we have those? There are none, sorry. 6.02, personnel. Dr. Arlotto.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Howe.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Ms. Omasore,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim,
Aye.
Ms. Ellis.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Item 6.03, policy revision, second reading, administration of medical cannabis code JR. Good afternoon, Ms. Ortiz.
Good afternoon. For the record, Jeanette Ortiz, Legislative and Policy Counsel. Before you is Policy JR, Administration of Medical Cannabis. On second reading, we received public comments, which are included in the meeting materials, and I can answer any questions.
Ms. Corkadell.
I am a little curious. How many students do we anticipate will benefit from this policy?
I do not have that data.
Is that data that we can acquire, Dr. Arlotto, or I guess there's really no way to know, or
I don't know if there's any way that we would know if a child is going to be utilizing.
Well, I guess my question is, can we get the state data of how many, because there's a whole registration thing. In order for the doctors there's a prescription, and there are outcome numbers that are just blind to people, but raw numbers. And I'd be curious of how many are under 18 that are registered in the state system.
Yeah, if that information's available, I'd be happy to share it with the board. I don't know that that's available or broken down by county, but certainly if it is, I can.
We
locate
can
it.
ask our Department of Health.
Yeah.
It's
Even
not-
if it's
not
a
data that
state
we
number,
have.
we can extrapolate. I am just curious as to how many students are actually registered to receive medical, the medical prescription in general. And I think we can extrapolate what that impact would be. Thank you.
Ms. Frank?
Yes, I wanted to check, so we have a number of schools, it looks like, who, that would not apply to this policy, is that correct?
So any school facility, any school that's on federal property would be exempt, and that's in accordance with the law.
It's in accordance with the law that was passed through the state of Maryland? Or?
Yes, so as a friendly reminder, this policy is drafted and completely aligned with state law that passed in the 2020 legislative session, and State of Maryland, Maryland State Department of Education, and Maryland Department of Health guidelines. So that particular provision, which exempts schools that are on federal land, on federal property, is in the law.
Okay, and then, so it looks like we have approximately 7 schools on federal property?
I don't know the exact number.
So I think it's 7, but yes, those are the Fort Meade schools that are on that reservation, that are on that post, that are federal property. Correct.
So let me pull it up really quick too. So when I read this, I don't recall seeing that in there. The schools that were exempt, is there a reason that we didn't list them?
So this is a policy, and so typically the policy wouldn't get into that great detail. However, as I mentioned I believe I mentioned on first reading, there will be regulations issued in accordance with the policy, and those regulations will be fully aligned with the law, this policy, state guidelines, and also vetted through our Department of Health. I have been collaborating with a representative from our Department of Health just to ensure that, there's full alignment. So it would be in the regulations where we would specify that. Of course, if the board would like to have that, more specific information in the policy, you can do that. I would definitely caution about listing out names of schools just because, names may change or situations may change, and that would just require us to have to go back and change a policy.
So as we're constructing policy, yes, you will create the regulation around the policy, but what you're saying is it would just say schools that are on federal property, that type of language?
Yeah, so typically like under the procedures section, we break down the implementation of the policy and the specific requirements. So how I have a draft, and my thought is that it would say, notwithstanding any other provision in this regulation, this regulation and accompanying policy do not apply to any schools on federal property. And that's typical language that we've used in regulations, other policies, as far as notwithstanding any other language. And that's very aligned with how state law will make exceptions.
Okay. And then I know there are a couple of other aspects where, because we have schools on federal property, there are differences. Are there any that are also reflected in policy and regulation? I know masking was one of them because there were some federal guidelines around masking. But is there anything that has made it into policy where it's noticed that there are differences in how we conduct our schools?
I'm not aware of that. Again, we have over 400 policies and regulations, so I'm not going to say there is. I'm not aware of any situation where we would have a policy state that. But in instances of masking, for example, like we don't actually have a policy or regulation on masking. We have the state mandate from the State Department of Education, so we're following that. But I'm not aware of anything that would need to be that would be covered currently under policy and regulation.
Okay, thank you.
I have to say, based on listening to the question and answers, which I had similar questions, it seems to me that policy is the appropriate place to say that this policy does not apply to schools on federal lands. The regulation is the implementation of the policy itself, and the policy does not apply to these schools. That seems to me appropriate. I feel like.
So my comment was about listing schools in the
I
policy.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that would be appropriate
list
to
schools.
list.
So I would love to see I guess it would be a C6 or something along those lines with that language.
Yeah, if you would like to, so it's, the policy is on second reading, so certainly any board member can propose an amendment. If
Right.
that amendment passes, I will go back and draft the language. I can try to think of some language right now as you develop your amendment, if you choose to do so, and vote. And then what would happen is that the policy would go back on our website for another public comment period until the next meeting of the board, which would still keep this on its regularly scheduled third reading. And then at that time, if there are any additional public comments, I would share that with the board, and then the board can, move forward with voting on the policy, or if you have additional amendments on third reading.
Right. So I would love to move an amendment, and Mr. Burns, correct me if I'm incorrect here, but I would just like to make a general motion about adding language without having to draft the language right now, if that's okay. So I move that a statement be added to the position section of this policy indicating that this policy does not apply to schools on federal lands.
Second.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Shawhan.
I'm going to be voting no on this, and I'll tell you why. So the reason why it exists that it's not currently allowed on federal lands is because of how cannabis is scheduled as a drug federally. That could change at any time. And if it were to do so, then our policy would have to go through this rigmarole. Again, I trust that in the regulations, which is a much more nimble way to adjust for a changing law, that would be addressed if the federal law were to change. And so I don't want to, we're never going to be out of compliance in our policy. And so I'm going to not be supportive of this for that reason.
Okay, I would be happy to amend the motion to include language indicating that unless federal law allows for until such time, that sounds good. If federal law permits the use of medical cannabis in these schools, that this language be added to the policy. So, Ms. Howe, do you understand the original motion I made should be proceeded with until such time that federal law allows, and then so forth?
Is that a
work?
tech edit? Are we going to take that as a tech edit? Or if not, I'll second it as an amendment. Okay, then
It's an amendment.
I second the amendment.
And just to be clear, what concerns me about not having this clause in the policy is the fear of someone getting themselves in trouble because it's not in our policy, and it could just be a mistake, it could be an error. I'm just trying to avoid that. I'm not supportive of the use of medical cannabis for those who need it, that's for sure. Dr. Tobin, you have something?
No, my concerns were answered. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Ms. Howell, do you have?
So I have draft language, if that's
Okay.
helpful.
Okay. Except I have a motion. I'm afraid that I guess I would have to withdraw it and propose this language, right? Right. Yeah, but the motion itself still exists. That's my point. In other words, if I'm going to use this language, then I have to restate my motion. Correct, Mr. Burns? You cannot.
Or you can,
always withdraw your motion.
Exactly. That was the point. Yeah, that's what I just said. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Ortiz,
All
please.
right,
Thank you.
This is what I put together. So notwithstanding any other provision in this policy, the administration of medical cannabis is prohibited on an AACPS school located on federal property until such time that federal law permits the administration of medical cannabis on a school that is located on federal property.
Love it. So I will withdraw my motion and I move that the board adopts the language proposed by Ms. Ortiz to amend this policy.
Second.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Howell, I have no lights, so we can vote.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Omasori?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Great, and finally, I just want to say, Ms. Ortiz, I read the public comment section, and I appreciate the responses that were given to those who had concerns.
Thank you.
I see no more lights.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz.
Finally, section 7, review items award of contracts. Are there any questions? Dr. Arlotto, I see no questions, no discussion. That will conclude our meeting. Upcoming meetings, general board meeting Wednesday, November 17th, 6 p.m.
We're going into closed session, remember?
Right, but I will still make this announcement because we will not be coming back out. The policy committee will be meeting Tuesday, November 30th, 3 p.m. That is virtual. Equity committee, Tuesday, November 9th, 11:30 a.m. That is virtual. Budget committee, Monday, November 15th, 12 p.m. Virtual. Board workshop. We have a workshop on Monday, November 15th at 5 p.m. in the boardroom. And following that at 6:30 will be a board hearing, more information to come. Ms. Schallheim.
Fantastic. Madam President, I move that the board go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, and to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have consensus to close?
Absolutely.
Okay, the board is now closed. Thank you.